right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Talk About It Live with Frankie Manny. How you doing this morning, brother?
Good, good.
All right. Got your Talk About It Live coffee going on this morning as well, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doing good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to get fueled up a little bit, man. I had a late night, kind of a late night last night. I mean, for us, it's Hanukkah. We're the Festival of Lights, a feast of dedication, and so we have 8 nights of candle lighting and we eat latkes and sufganiyot, which is actually jelly filled donuts. Latkes are like little potato pancakes, and having a nice time, just reflecting on what the Lord has done for us. And for us as Messianic Jews, and this is a time when we believe that Yeshua the Messiah was conceived. The promise of the light of the world being fulfilled, and so it's just a wonderful time, man, to come together as family. Come together as believers during this season of miracles, the festival of lights, right, and celebrate the light of the world, Yeshua HaMashiach. And so for all those who are observing Hanukkah, Hanukkah Hag Sameach, happy Hanukkah, and Lord bless you and keep you during this season. But it's a day that the Lord has made, right, Frank?
Yeah, it is. And, as I was listening to that, there's probably some folks that, uh, for me, Manny, as a new believer, real quick, I was very fortunate. I got involved with a Bible study group who would like to use, amongst other things, the Mishnah as part of the just a background for our studies, because in the Mishnah, just from a layman's terms, would be just a collection of the customs and commentaries, traditions of Jewish life. And so I was very fortunate that very early on somebody said Jesus was a good Jewish boy.
Yeah, he was.
And so versus some other folks that grow up along, and are raised and learn in their Christian walk, somehow devoid, somehow separated from the fact that our Savior is Jewish.
It's Jewish, that's right.
Yeah, and so there's great value to be gained from looking into the life of who this Savior was. His traditions, I think, they're important for us, and that's something that just the other day, my wife and I, my son was also, one of my sons was in the room. We were watching. No, he was not there. But anyways, there was a commercial. No, he was. Anyways, there was a commercial. Tony Evans, and he's going to Israel in 2023. And I said, well, hey, you know what? Brother Manny said, he wants to go back, and so if you ever go to Israel, bro, I would definitely love to tag along and go visit the land of our Savior.
Amen. Of course, we'd love to have you. Yeah, we're planning on going here hopefully, next year again. And so, man, it's
Cool.
the Holy Land is just a beautiful place, and rich with history. Not only world history, but biblical history. Prophetic history, and it's amazing. Of course, Messiah is going to reign there when he returns, and so it's a wonderful place to visit and get to know. And so it's important. It's very important, and then to remember that Israel is America's greatest ally. And now we have the U.S. Embassy there in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the capital of
Thanks,
Israel.
President Trump.
Yeah, thank you for President Trump. It's amazing too, Frank. Over there in the Golden Heights, they actually have a little town named after him.
Oh, yeah?
Over there, named after President Trump.
Trumpville, or what?
Yeah. It's President Trump. It's Donald Trump. Village or town or something like that. I can't remember, but then they also have a coin made of him as well. Not to boost his ego or anything like that. But the reason they did that is because they're very thankful. They're very thankful.
Yeah.
Israel just recognized President Donald Trump as their greatest friend, the greatest friend that they've had. And as a president,
Yeah.
and it's incredible. He received the highest award not too long ago in recognition for that, because of what he's done for Israel. And I believe, Frank, I know we got some stuff to talk about, but I believe that one of the reasons America is blessed is because our founding fathers believed in blessing Israel.
Well, yeah. And remember, man, I mean, and sorry to cut you off there, Manny, but a couple of things are. Remember, the U.S. was one of the first, if not the first, to recognize back in the 40s, Israel's claim to statehood, to being a nation. And so a couple of things that just kind of bubble up to the surface as we're talking here. You said Israel, U.S. being allies. Why? Because America is in danger. America has enemies, external and internal. Enemies within the fold. And so that was one of the things that popped up. The other thing was about Trump being, naming, the importance of Jerusalem. Why? Because he had guts, he had intestinal fortitude.
Yep.
And so that's a very stark contrast to what we see in so many of our elected officials, our appointees, our bureaucrats, and it's on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right.
And so real quick, how'd you like that swing from
Yeah, that was a good that was a good segue, man.
into politics here? But of course, hey, look, that's what this show is about. Talk about it live, talk about the good things, but also committed to exposing the truth, committed to speaking truth, and not holding back. Yeah. And so it's all just a matter of, it's a question, Manny, of, we're not going to hold back on the truth. So it's just a question of who's going to be at the receiving end of it.
You're exactly right. It's sad to say right now, a lot of the truth, the majority of the truth here is being suppressed in the United States. I mean, they're even trying to erase historical truths and change it, to change to fit their narrative, and to influence and to even affect our children, and it only takes a generation to forget history. Yeah. It doesn't take long. The Nazis depended upon that. They depended upon erasing history. Yeah, they even, had this mantra that, he who controls the textbooks controls the children, controls history. And that's what we're seeing happen in our country. We're seeing, nothing's being taught anymore, as far as history goes. I talk to a lot of young people. A lot of young people today in public schools, for some reason, they can't expound on American.
Oblivious, bro.
Yeah, it's on American history. It's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. Mostly everybody's about virtue signaling, right? It's about feelings, and the reality is that facts don't care about your feelings. I mean, and this is what we have to understand. Truth is not relative, right? There's truth, and what I believe is God is the one who determines what truth is, and beyond that, there's nothing else.
And the thing about it is that truth is fixed. I mean, it's these timeless principles, bro, that were real at the at the beginning of time, creation. God is, was, will always be, of course. And but He establishes truths. They don't change. There is no shadow, no shade of turning in Him. And what the world needs today, definitely our society, American society here, in our communities, is for people to be willing to tell the truth, to speak the truth, and to speak it to the powers that be. Truth to powers, like they say, kind of could be a bit of a activist slogan or whatever, but there is truth to that you have to be willing to speak to truth and be bold and go to where the powers assemble, where they meet. And so that's why it's important for we, the people, to be involved. There's a lot of stuff, we're going into the end of the year here, but already I can see folks gearing up for a political season per se. And then, somebody would say, well, what, there's no elections coming up. No, but we have a legislative session here in Texas that's fixing to gear up. And I see groups, Manny, that are getting ready. And it seems, man, it's kind of cool how this kind of happens. It seems to be along the vein as if we're connected in one way or another. But I see groups getting ready to take bus loads, van loads, car loads of people to the Capitol here in Texas. Wow. and to show up in mass, grassroots. And I think that's a good thing. That's what we've talked about, getting involved. We talked about empowering the people to go speak. Not just voting in the ballot box, but getting involved pre-election, get involved in the legislative process. Hey, it'd be great to be able to go do that in D.C., but that's far away, and not everybody has the money to be able to travel. And that's why our representatives are supposed to come back and visit, mingle, set up town halls back in their home districts, because we can't all go to Washington, but at least here in Texas. And that's like driving across multiple states for some other places. But at least we can go to Austin. And so it's good to see people gearing up, getting ready to demand that the voice of the people be heard. And one of the primary things that's going on right now is that Dade Phelan, who's a speaker of the House, Republican in name only, is once again signaling that he's going to give Democrat chairs, committee chairmanships over vital committees, bro. Wow. And there's great power in being a committee chair, because they can hold up, detain, stop critical legislation, especially specifically conservative legislation. Because look, let's face it, the Republican Party, which is supposed to be the home of the conservatives,
Yeah.
The Democrat agenda is that's not even really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We know what it is to a certain extent: destroy, disable, weaken, degenerate. And that, I'm talking about the agenda here of the Democrat Party at the national levels, and of course they've got their advocates and their workers at the ground level. But anyways, they're specifically targeting conservative legislation, and it's a shame, Manny, because all the work that our grassroots does to elect these people, and they continuously turn around and stab the grassroots in the back. They stab conservatives in the back.
And it's a shame, and it's funny, it's interesting. Well, not funny, but it's sad because when getting involved with your election, and then Raul Reyes as well, Raul Reyes Jr.'s, it was amazing to me how overt a lot of these things are, right?
In your face.
In your face, how overt the corruption is, and how
treason.
And the backstabbing. It's incredible. It was incredible to me. Of course, I always encourage people to get involved in some type of civic politic, or civic duty, to go vote. But these last few years, I've been trying to get directly involved in how it works, how everything works, the minutia of it all. But it saddened me, Frank. It really saddened me to the core, seeing the corruption. I know the Democratic Party is corrupt. I know it's corrupt, but seeing it within the GOP and the Republican Party really, really saddened me because I believe in the platform. I believe in the platform. I never put my faith in men. Ultimately, my faith is in God. But you want to believe the words that these people say, but then when you see their actions, it's sad. I have no other word for it. It's just sad, because I think the Democratic Party, they have an agenda, right? They have an agenda to destroy America. That's what I truly believe. They want to destroy America. And they want to take away our rights, and they want to kill our children. I'm gonna say
they want to kill us too, bro.
Yeah, they want, and it's sad. But they're united behind that, right? No matter how crazy the left is, right? If they say that they're a Democrat, no matter how insane their agenda is, they unite behind it and push one another and support one another. Within the GOP right now, we have these rhinos. To me, Frank, I think that's our biggest fight right now are the rhinos within the Republican Party and among conservatives.
And I would say, they're globalists, man.
They're globalists. It's a globalist attitude, yeah.
They're globalists, bro, and they are part of the one world system. And so, there goes that little tie back into, of course, issues of faith, matters of faith.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of talk. Internally, Ronna McDaniel is the RNC chair. And so there's a lot of things coming to light about what she's been doing, misspending Republican money, which is donated money, and so she's been, the RNC, and that's why people were saying don't donate to this national groups, and then some people are going to cringe and pull their hairs out when they hear people like me saying this. Donate to the capitals, to the candidate. Donate to specific, causes that have a high threshold of accountability, that are not afraid to be held accountable, that are not afraid to be transparent, that you can contact, and not these elitists like at the upper echelons of the Republican Party, they're going to play games. They want you to do all the work for them, but yet when it comes time to hear from the people, they ignore you, they mock you, they stab you in the back. And there's a lot of that going on. So I'm glad to see, and so what you're saying, your realization, Manny, is an awakening that different people are going through. And I'm not saying that you haven't been awake, but, it's just a more realization. It's more confirmation of what we know, that power in the hands of people can go either good or bad. And some people, if they are spiritually weak, they have no moral compass, if they have no moral spine, they're going to let that power, corrupt them. It goes to their head. They become arrogant. They misuse it. They disregard and hold in contempt, the people at the ground level, grassroots America. So there's an awakening taking place. I've seen Charlie Kirk and others willing to expose, the weakness. The Chip Roy, one of our favorite
Yeah.
congressmen here,
Yep.
was just basically laid down the gauntlet just over the last couple of days. And if Chip's crew's watching, we appreciate you guys. He laid down the gauntlet and said that any senatorial Republican, any senator that votes for this huge spending bill, $1.7 trillion, their agenda, those senators, the Republican senators' agenda is going to have an issue. They're going to have a hard time getting through through the Republican part of Congress. And so, people say, well, the Senate, Congress, yeah, well, there's an interplay that needs to take place there. And there needs to be a cooperation that takes place there. And so Chip Roy and 12 others, a group of 13 Republican congressmen have said, any Republican senator that votes for this $1.7 trillion package, their agenda, their issues, their legislation, their priorities are going to have a difficult time with those 13 representatives. And look, man, that's what needs to take place. You've got to expose, you've got to call out, you've got to shed light on and speak the truth. And I'm so grateful that we at least have one congressman here in Texas,
Yeah.
and there's more, but at least those that we know of that are willing to go to those measures on behalf of we the people.
Yes, and it's important to vet your candidate. Always vet them. Again, I know we kind of continue to talk about the election and things like, but folks, it's important, and we need to understand that we do have a voice. One of the hard truths, Frank, is that sad to say, a lot of conservatives don't get out there and vote. Man, we have one of the lowest voter turnouts in just about every election, right? And it's sad. I mean, we can't take for granted, right, that Texas is going to stay red, right? And we can't take for granted that Texas is the only red state. I mean, what happens here in Texas affects the rest of the United States, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important on who we look at and who we put into office. I mean, look at what's happening right now with the January 6th committee, right? I mean, they just referred President Trump, right, for President Trump for criminal charges, and then accusing other GOP lawmakers of ethical violations and for their refusal to cooperate.
Yeah.
With the January 6th committee. This is incredible, man. So if President Trump is convicted, which I doubt, I hope he isn't, but you never know with things going on, but it means that he can no longer run for president. So I think this has always been the goal of the January 6th committee, to keep President Trump out. But it's sad to say, Frank, our representative here in this district, 23, Tony Gonzalez, voted for this very committee.
He voted for it, and what he's doing is running around, throwing up a bunch of dust. He's brushing out.
He's brushing out.
Like we would say in the patrol, he's brushing out the tracks. He's trying to brush out. And look, to a certain extent, a couple of things that you said there come to mind. For one, Republicans wanted this. Part of me wants to say, how do you like me now, kind of thing, because that sacred mantra that the Republican hierarchy always kind of throws out, and of course, as it makes its way down, folks, it sounds good, so they grab onto it without really doing some critical analysis here. But I'm referring to Reagan's 11th commandment: "Thou shalt not speak evil of other Republicans." But yet, the two Republicans on this January 6th committee are slamming not just Trump, like you said, but other Republicans, and there's certainly no qualms about going after your opponent in the primaries, and they'll always say that don't speak ill about other Republicans, but yet they do every low down, backstabbing, underhanded, dark alley tactic against their fellow Republicans. So what it is, it's part of the lie, it's part of the narrative. It's part of that cracking the whip that I refer to. They crack the whip on you, keep you in line. Nothing you see here, just move along. Do as I say, not as I do, kind of stuff. And so I'm glad that people are waking up to that. And even so, even with this irrefutable evidence of what is going on being presented to people, Manny, sadly, There's those that will still just kind of like, well, what do we do? What,
As long as he or she's a Republican, right? As
yeah,
long as
just
they,
keep
yeah,
that R in the
yeah,
win column.
yeah.
And so the whole time, and there's something you were talking about earlier. That was one of the third things is they're selling us out. These establishment globalists in the Republican Party are just as guilty of treason, just as guilty of corruption, just as guilty of selling us out. And I'll add another one, just as guilty of the murder of innocent women and children, bro. Because some and we've talked about this. The cartels are having a gory fest.
Oh my goodness.
They are raking in not just the billions, but their every evil, sinful, demonic desire on the face of the earth is being fulfilled in that cartel pipeline as people come into our country. And so I say that to segue into Title 42, a big to do about, oh my God, Title 42 is going away, oh my God, and there's a little bit of that Chicken Little syndrome that's going on with that, but we'll expound on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and yes, go to the Supreme Court. Yesterday, temporarily blocked Title 42, so the DOJ has
They blocked it going away.
Yeah, going away. So at least until Tuesday, right? They put a stay on Title 42 until at least Tuesday, right? Next Tuesday, and so DOJ has like until 5 p.m. today to kind of express why they should remove Title 42. So it kind of, in essence, the Department of Justice has to defend its reasoning, right? But the reality, folks, is that Title 42 was loosely enforced.
Yes.
Very loosely enforced. I mean, and sad to say, it was only enforced basically on Mexicans.
Some Central Americans.
Some Central Americans. But the reality is that it wasn't enforced from people come from Cuba, from Venezuela, from Haiti,
Africa, Europe,
you name it. All these
Russia,
other countries, yeah,
Middle East.
just all come on, let's release them, and. So, but what Title 42 is going to, removal of Title 42, what it's going to do is it's going to open up like the left door. You know what I mean? It's just going to open up the doors wider, right? That's what, in essence, that's what it's doing. Because, and so we'll probably be expecting this fiscal year, the remainder of this fiscal year, experts are saying that 5.1 million illegal aliens will enter into this country, right?
And that's just what we know about.
That's just what we know about, exactly right. That's just what we know about because we still have the criminal alien element, thing. But like you were saying, Frank, what this is doing is this is further enriching the cartels. The government, the United States, is not in control of its own borders, folks. The cartels are running the borders right now. But why? Because our own government is complicit right now. Is complicit in human trafficking, alien smuggling, the increase of drugs that are coming in. Right now, it was like 250 people per day. Right now are dying because of fentanyl. Right? What's her name? Deputy Attorney General the other day, Lisa Manago. Right? She said that right now, the fentanyl crisis is a national security issue.
Yeah.
Right? And so here's the second highest ranking law enforcement official in the United States saying that this is a national security issue. And on both sides of the aisle, they're turning a blind eye because of the globalist agenda.
Yep.
It's regardless if they're Democrat or Republican, if they have the globalist theology or ideology in their minds and in their hearts, folks, these borders are going to remain wide open. No one is going to come. It's only going to be a remnant. They're going to stand up like Chip Roy and a few others. They're going to stand up and say, "Hey, this is ridiculous." You get people like Tony Gonzalez. He doesn't care. And what's amazing to me, Frank, is I'm going to show a clip of a video because to me it's really ironic, man.
It's hypocritical.
It's really ironic and very, very hypocritical. Let me put this up here real quick. I'm going to show this video of a processing center in El Paso.
I think it's an NGO. It's an NGO.
Oh, NGO. Okay. Yeah. And so this center right here is over capacity. It's supposed to be only for I think 1,000 people, and I think they have like 5,000 all around right now in this area. But what's ironic to me, Frank, and hypocritical about this is this video is filmed by none other than Tony Gonzalez.
It was released by his office, and so of course what he's trying to do. That's the brush out we were talking about. That he's running around now trying to come off as a border hawk, but yet you can never forget, that he comes from LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, Open Borders, Amnesty crowd. That you can never forget that he voted for the impeachment of Trump, who was, effectively controlling the border, bro.
Yeah.
And real quick before I forget this, Title 42 it's not something that we used.
Right.
That's a CDC, Centers for Disease Control authority that was granted, lent to the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, in the latter portion of Trump's tenure,
Yep.
when COVID-19 broke out. And so it's an authority, and they're probably going to shut us down for it. But anyways, for mentioning it. But anyways, it's something that was invoked, for a very brief period of time. And so I'm saying that to say this, that that authority helped, and as Manny was saying, it was applied to certain groups, and even then, we say it was only applied to Mexicans. Even then, you had let's just say a group of 10 Mexicans. Hey,
8 of them are going to get released. Right?
yeah, 2 of them, hey, we're sending them back under Title 42.
Yeah.
The real question for lawmakers, and something I would have asked in Congress, was I want to know specifically how many Mexicans and Central Americans, how many people were deported under Title 42, sent back. And it contrasted with the total amount of people, and it was a token number of
because it's unclear. It's unclear because I've tried to look up a lot of those stats, Frank, and they do not have a determined number.
And it was just to show that they were using it. But real quick, I just wanted to say that because in the absence of Title 42, folks, we had enforcement of immigration laws, and we have policies like Remain in Mexico, and others. Hey, Central American countries, you don't want to take back these flights of illegal aliens being returned to your country. We're going to cut the funding off, and man, boom, people stepped in line. So it was the policies, the actions, and the enforcement of law pre-Biden, and not necessarily Title 42. So all this, oh my God, Title 42, Title 42. You know what? Guess what? The sky has pretty much floating, has fallen. But all you see is just a random little cloud up there.
But it's funny because it's Democrats that created this fear with Title 42, right? When Trump initiated it, and then now they've changed their whole. They're catching on, so now they're starting to blame Republicans and conservatives for the removal of Title 42. It's insane, and people are believing. But one of the reasons I showed that video as well, the hypocrisy of Tony Gonzalez, folks, is because he petitioned for these processing centers. He petitioned to fund these NGOs and house and to encourage illegal immigration, to encourage the furtherance of illegal entry, from people from other countries, folks. So to me, it's completely hypocritical because he's the one who did this. Now he's one of the ones who did this. Plus, he also petitioned, right, to use lawful Air Force Base here in Del Rio to transport illegal aliens further into the country, which then extended to buses, which then also extended to now they're being housed in hotels. Now they're being housed in shelters, right? Pushing out veterans, pushing out homeless, citizens, American citizens. So what he did here, folks, has huge ramifications and reaches out to affect the rest of the United States. But folks, with regards to Title 42 right now being lifted, it's now there's a little stay, but if it gets removed, like Frank was saying.
Yeah, it almost makes you want to say, so what? I mean, the borders are wide open anyways. And look, so let's not stop shaking this rag doll, Tony Gonzalez, because he is not just duplicitous, bro. He's not just panderer and a hypocrite. The guy's a traitor. He's a treasonous elected official. Yep. He worked along with Henry Cuellar and Sinema out of Arizona, who just went, got out of the Democrat Party. And John Cornyn, that other, Rhino here in Texas, they were pushing for mega processing centers. Yeah. Remember, 2021, they were pushing for mega processing centers. They were, and Tony Gonzalez, we have video after video of him when he's asked, hey, what do we do to secure the border? What does he say? Issue out more worker visas. Yeah. That's his first response. He was asked, hey, what do we do about the situation in Ukraine? What do we do? And and what he said was, send them more money. He voted, for that, and what that did, folks, was create for a massive inflow of Ukrainian refugees to to get over to America, that money wasn't used to, repel the Russians and fight the Russians. That's still going on.
Brother, the Ukrainian government gave themselves raises,
gave
bro,
themselves raises.
within a matter of days after receiving
And that money went to NGOs, and now it turns out to FTX,
Yeah.
which was used against Republicans in the elections, primary and general elections.
This is amazing, brother, because you don't want I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, man, but my goodness, brother, I mean, here you have
It's
all
in your face.
it's in your face and it's overt. All you have to do is open your eyes, folks, and look, follow the money, right? And it's amazing because now with this FTX thing, and I don't want to get off too much of the subject, but there was ties to the Ukraine. They're one of the second largest donor to the Democratic Party, and all these Democrats went over to the Ukraine shortly before the Russia invaded, which is kind of coincidental. I don't know, but guess who else went, right? Tony Gonzalez went over there, right? And we all
went
know
to Ukraine.
He went to Ukraine, and we all know, or we should all know, that the majority of those folks that went over there went to go make sure that their assets were safe, because
Or to open up bank accounts.
open a bank, yeah, because Ukraine is corrupt, folks. I mean,
It's been a corrupt nation. It's been a launder house. It's been a criminal nation. Where criminal organizations go and conduct business. And so once again, you saw people waving the blue and yellow flag, and people are, they just get caught up in this, bro. The media puts it out, including Fox News and others. And I've been on Fox, whatever. They put it out, bro, and people just get in line. You've got to have critical thinking skills. Real quick, let's not forget something about Gonzalez, is that his office is inside an NGO facility. Yep. So it's inside the corporate, next door to the corporate headquarters of Endeavor's. Inside an Endeavor's facility, and yet he goes and shows a picture inside of a facility in El Paso. Hey, Gonzalez, why don't you go down to Eagle Pass and show the inside of Mission Border Hope? Mission Border Hope is the biggest NGO in Eagle Pass, which up to a few days ago, before El Paso, was the epicenter here in Texas. And so Gonzalez, go inside Mission Border Hope and get on film your friend.
That you helped get funding for.
Get the executive director, on camera here, who's married to the editor of the Eagle Pass News Leader. Yeah. Get them on film. Get that facility on film here, instead of just playing games with people. But unfortunately, Manny, people are going to buy into that. And the other massive lie going on here, folks. And look, it's a no holds barred here, man. We're just going to throw it out, the truth. What's Abbott doing for you? How's that working out for you? You all folks that ran around, nobody else can be Beto, nobody else can be Beto. And so de facto, Abbott got into position. And so what's Abbott doing for our state? Honestly, he just sent more money for people to get bussed out of El Paso, bro. Yeah. They're just all these people that are coming across in record numbers into El Paso. Guess what? Texans, we are going to pay for that. We're footing the bill. We're going to foot the bill to get them into the country, further into the country.
And I talked to a lot of people, and they're like, man, well, I'm glad he's sending them to these, these blue cities and this and that. Folks, you got to be, many of the Democrats and these liberals want them over there, folks. In some states, it's legal to harvest ballots. Yeah, it's legal to harvest.
So we're helping their voting.
We're helping them. So all they got to do is record the names of all these illegal aliens that are coming in and check them off, and they can harvest their ballots and vote for them and turn everything blue. Folks, it's amazing to me. But the reality is that like when Abbott said, well. We declared invasion. We're going to send them back to the border.
And everybody went, yeah. He's declared invasion. Oh my God! And so they freaking start calling him the second coming of Messiah.
Yeah, and then he says, well, but he says we'll send him back to the border, folks. That's not deportation.
That's just code.
It's just code. You send him over to the border and you bust him out. Henry Cuellar said that once Title 42 is lifted, busing's still going to continue. It's still going to be business as usual. They're just going to bring more buses down here. And what's amazing, Frank, is now. The Democrats, what's her name, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, whoever she is, now they're flipping the narrative and saying that if open borders is the conservatives' fault, right? That now if you worried about Title 42 or you're trying to put out their disinformation, you're putting out disinformation if you're criticizing Title 42, and then she goes on to say, I'll play it right here. She goes on to say that we're actually doing the work of the smugglers. Let me show you this video real quick, and so I can get it off my mind. Yep. I'm trying to let me get my sound up.
Anyone who suggests
Oh, yeah, I did.
otherwise is simply doing the work of these smugglers
All right,
who,
let me
again,
rewind it here.
anyone who mean the border is open is that the vulnerable
There you
migrants.
go.
But I want to be very clear here. The fact is that the removal of Title 42 does not mean the border is open. Anyone who suggests otherwise is simply doing the work of these smugglers who, again, are spreading misinformation and which is very dangerous. When Title 42 goes away, as we have to do because of a court order, which is on Wednesday, as all of you know, we will go back to Title 8, which allows a process to make sure that people can make their asylum claims heard. Those who do not have a legal basis to remain will be quickly removed. And so we will continue to fully enforce our immigration laws in a fair, orderly, and humane manner.
Okay, they're not enforcing, they haven't been enforcing any immigration laws since Biden has taken office, right? And now they're saying that if you disagree with removal of Title 42, you're basically spreading disinformation and you're doing the work of the smugglers. Folks, this administration has been doing the work of for the smugglers, for the cartels, and now they realize it. They know that that's what they're doing. So now they're trying to shift blame. It's called blame casting, right? And all you got to do is change the narrative. That way, folks will start looking at conservatives like Frank and I, and like so we're the ones who are at fault in spreading disinformation.
You just okay. So let's just real quick look, man. I'm looking at my comments as well. Look, folks, I appreciate y'all. Love y'all jumping in, commenting. Great, great, great. But look, it's not just the Biden administration. It is globalist officials as well within the Republican Party, folks. They're there, and so that's one thing. You know, the fault here goes to both parties, elected officials within both parties. And then this other thing about, you know, let's just throw more resources, more money. Look, man, we did so much. We were still in the patrol when Trump was the president. And yeah, okay, so there was money, there was funding for DHS, there was funding for Border Patrol. But not at, but now the money that is being thrown at this to build processing centers for these huge contracts with Endeavors and other NGOs, for these huge contracts with busing companies, and some of which actually, brother, are owned or run, operated, managed by retired Border Patrol agents and retired DHS personnel.
I know it's insane.
Oh my God!
So but we had funding.
We have got to stop throwing money at this. And so, look, I see the comments, and I understand your sentiment. You know, more barbed wire and all this. Look, Abbott has spent over $4 billion addressing this issue here in Texas. But what has he not done? What has he not done? He has not taken not one illegal alien
Back.
He has not gotten either DPS versus the National Guard. Not one single trooper has, under the orders of Abbott and McGraw, the commander of DPS here, and has not taken one single illegal alien to the middle of the bridge here in Acuna or anywhere else in Del Rio, across from anywhere else on this Texas border, and said, Mexico, you let this guy walk up to the border, you let him cross the river, you let him cross your border down south, whatever. You didn't do anything, Mexico. Here's your guy. Take him back. Abbott has not done that, folks. And if our country is in so much trouble, if this situation is so terrible, if the danger is you know, so ominous to America, if our communities are at risk, you know, with the drug problem and potentially terrorists coming into our countries, if the situation is so dire and the danger so heightened, why has your governor, Abbott, not taken even one single person, ordered his DPS troopers to take him to the middle of the bridge and kick him back into Mexico? He hasn't done that. Instead, he plays games.
And what's amazing is that, you know, when he came down here, and I hate criticizing our governor. I really do.
He needs it.
But he needs
Needs
to
to be
he
exposed.
needs to have his feet held to the fire. You know, when he came down here and announced, well, we're going to build our wall, and everybody cheered. It turned into a cyclone fence. You know what's happening now? They're actually cutting out sections of those fences now because they have to let all these illegal aliens come because the illegal aliens were cutting up the fence. So now the National Guard has to do it, right? So they have to cut out sections. And now what we're seeing in El Paso is we just got reports the other day that that now they're not. There are so many cases where groups of illegal aliens are not even heading to the processing centers. Frank, they're going straight from the river,
Yeah.
and being released into neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and dropping them off in the middle of the night, right? And sad to say, uh, when Mayorkas visited El Paso the other day, they had over 10,000 illegal aliens, and they had, and somehow they disappeared.
Yeah.
Right before Mayorkas got
Just let them go.
just let them go, right? But here's how far it's going, folks. Here's how far it's going. The Biden administration, I was reading this the other day. The Biden administration is now extending asylum options to Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti, and some other countries, and this is in Venezuela. And what they're wanting to do, Frank, and what they're willing to do, is allowing these people from other countries to apply for asylum in their country of origin, and Biden is willing to send planes to go pick them up and bring them.
Yeah.
You know what? And we folks, when Frank and I were in the Border Patrol, you know, some of my fellow agents are probably like, "Well, when did you process, Manny? You were." It's a whole joke. We bash each other about that. But processing in back in the day when I was in and aliens would come up seeking asylum. Or credible fear anyway. Credible fear would give you legitimate reasons. Now I just don't want to be there, right? I just don't want to be there because according to the Democrats and according to liberals and the globalists, including the rhinos or globalist rhinos, the rest of the world is burning, right? The rest of the world is on fire. They're you know, and now these people have to escape. They're because they're using the word migrants, right? They're using the word migrants. They're illegal aliens, right? But they're using the word migrants, and that these people
Invaders.
They're fleeing. They're fleeing tyranny, folks. They're not. And how do we know that they're not? They're not fleeing tyranny. They're seeking asylum because over 90%, close to maybe 98% of all asylum cases, of all asylum seekers, folks, do not show up to their court hearings.
Yeah. So look, and folks need to, stop watching the football game for a minute. Stop watching. Do some research. This is your country. This is your home. This is your future. This is your children's future home. This is, I went to the grocery store a couple of days ago. The price of chicken is outrageous, man. Chicken thighs, let alone thinking about buying steaks or anything like that.
We're thinking of actually starting to raise chickens.
Raise chickens, man. Yeah, just watch out because then people go nowhere to raid. Don't know where to go raid. But anyways, look, yeah, Americans, Texans, citizens, patriots, you're being lied to. You're being lied to by your government. You're being lied to by your elected officials. You're being lied to by both parties. You're being lied to by bureaucrats. You're being lied to by appointed officials. And this is being allowed to happen. After this show, Manny, I'm going to do a live real quick down here in the border. I'm just going to show you how people are just standing around. Why? It's all a show there. Our state is spending so much money at busing people into this country and allowing, for an orderly flow into our country. You look at those images, see what people may not know this. When you see all those images of people, it looks like a canal. That's the Rio Grande River. In El Paso, it's a canal. It's not, it's not open. It's been, built up a bit. So anyways, they are already in the United States. And the ones that are, not orchestrating, but the ones that are on the ground, keeping an eye and moving people along is National Guard troops, is other law enforcement agencies that are down there, folks. And this is happening under the eyes of Texas National Guard, happening under the eyes of Texas DPS, our military forces. And they are not repelling, they are not pushing back, they are certainly not getting these people, loading them up in buses and saying, you came into the country illegally on Texas state soil, we're gonna send you back to Mexico and you're gonna do it back. They're not doing that. All our tax dollars here are doing is facilitating, making it easier for these people to get into the interior of the country. And you said, Manny, earlier that some people would say, well, let's just get into these liberal cities. You're just padding the voting rolls over there. Yep. You're just putting more people on the public dime over there. There's more American tax dollars that are going to go to support.
And our own
these
citizens are
people.
suffering. Our own citizens are suffering because they're pushing out veterans and they're pushing out.
What about the
homeless.
elderly?
Yeah,
What about our young children's our children's future? So many issues. But look, folks, you just gotta wake up, man. You're being lied to, and what they expect you to do is they're gonna wave the pom poms, and the expected reply from you is to cheer and say, yeah, you go get them, Abbott. Yeah, you go get them. They have conditioned our society. They have conditioned our citizenry to do the wave whenever they snap their finger at you. They've conditioned you to cheer when they wave their pom poms and when they say the right thing, but they don't do the right thing. Their words are diametrically, opposite, of what they are really doing.
It's funny. It's funny because what was coming to mind is like, the patrol. Every time we got word like, all right, you guys are getting raises. It's law enforcement.
Getting raises?
No, raises.
Oh, raises.
They pay raises. And it's funny because every time somebody would say something like that, our answer was always like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. That's like always the response for Border Patrol folks. And I live by that, man. I'll believe it when I see it. Like when Abbott came down here and said, well, we're going to build our own walls. Like, okay, all right.
We were in the Civic Center and people were like cheering and it's like,
okay. And then we look around and there's other Border Patrol agents there like, oh, okay. Because reality is, folks, I appreciate the Donald Trump's role. I did. I appreciated it's a force multiplier. But the reality, folks, is that when we enforce immigration laws, we don't have all this.
There's got to be consequences.
Yeah, there has to be.
Go to jail. Get sent back to your country.
There's no consequences. And then the reality as well, folks, this is overwhelming our agents. This is overwhelming our agents like you wouldn't believe. So far this fiscal year, we've had 14 Border Patrol suicides, 1 in OFO, and with Customs. And so, one of the big reasons, I'm just going to read you real quick, one of the first lines of a Border Patrol mission statement, right? It says, the primary mission of the Border Patrol is to detect and deter and prevent the illegal entry and smuggling of aliens into the United States, right? That's our primary mission. And right now, our agents are not able to do that. They're no longer allowed to enforce the law, right? El Paso just tried to declare a state of emergency. They actually called the mayor and told him not to do it, like, hey, don't declare a state of emergency. And then I heard that, sad to say, there's some management up top and Border Patrol as well that said that they don't really conceive this right now or believe that this is a major crisis, that it can be handled. They're coming out defending Mayorkas and whatnot for what he's doing. But folks, our agents are being overtaxed, right, with daily. With illegal alien processing, they're not able to fulfill their oath that they swore to uphold, and it does something to you, right, Frank? If you're not, I became an agent to defend our nation.
Yeah.
I became an agent to protect the homeland, right? And when you're not able to do that, you feel useless.
Yeah, it's like a surgeon not operating. It's like a teacher not teaching. I mean, a fireman putting out fires, you're just doing the opposite. You're just throwing gas in the fire. Yeah, you were talking about the raises. We lost money a few years ago before I retired, somewhere along 2015 maybe, somewhere in there 2016. We lost money, and partly that was because the Border Patrol Union worked out a deal with management.
Yeah.
And so, the Border Patrol Union is now, on the flip side, they're talking about, hey, we're going to get agents a 14% increase, but what are we trading? Our approval, our endorsement, and this is the Border Patrol Union endorsing amnesty with DACA. And so that was an unconstitutional act by Obama, but Brandon Judd, the head of the Border Patrol Council, was the one that endorsed Tony Gonzalez. But don't forget, folks, that not only did he endorse, the globalist Gonzalez, he endorsed Democrat Henry Cuellar.
Yeah.
And back in 2019, when Alejandro Mayorkas was being screened for DHS secretary, the Border Patrol Union, Brandon Judd, endorsed Alejandro Mayorkas. So
it's sad. I was talking to some people.
I can't help but chuckle, dude, just at the irony of all this.
It is ironic, man. It's ironic and it's hypocritical. I mean, it's sad. It's sad. We had the right? They ordered the air marshals, right, to come down a while back to help process.
And they said,
they're
heck
like,
no.
we're like, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it, right? But here's I'm going to tell you, the Border Patrol Union, the head of the union, manager, doesn't speak for every Border Patrol agent, all right? DACA is nothing but a pathway for amnesty. That's all it is, right? And he's endorsed it and supports it. And but they said, well, on the flip side, our agents should be getting a 14% pay increase. Folks, that's how you kind of hang the carrot.
Is that the buy off?
Yeah, in front of the horse, right? And but at what cost? At what cost is it going to be? Our agents are overtaxed. You know, like I said, we have 14 suicides. Divorces is increased among our Border Patrol agent families. You know, and sad to say, we're also basically sacrificing our sovereignty.
Yeah.
As a nation, because not only are they hiring more Border Patrol agents, but they're hiring more processors, right? And the major task of the Border Patrol agent right now is to process, to just get these illegal aliens
get 'em
further,
through faster.
get them into our country, while the cartels are cashing in.
Yeah, and that's why we were sounding the alarm, bro. When the congressman here was running around saying we need to build more processing centers, we need to hire more immigration judges, we need to prioritize asylum cases. I mean, that's what this guy was doing. That the Republican in this district was doing all this, and so it was with the purpose of not securing it. There was never the intent to secure the border. There was never the intent to stop the flow. It's all has been about making the pipeline bigger. And we can never forget that women, children, men are being raped, robbed, murdered, slaughtered, harvested, disappearing as a consequence. We can never forget that our government, our corrupt officials are aiding and abetting the disappearance, the desecration, the murder of people. Folks, that's just the blunt truth. And so, look, all this stuff about, look, let's just throw more law enforcement, let's just build more walls, let's just put up more shipping containers and all that stuff, it's not going to stop it. It's not even going to slow it down. If anything,
I'll tell you what.
it's just flooding to concentrated points where it makes it easier, just to scoop them all up in one area.
I tell you what, Frank, those shipping containers along the river, if I were still working on the line, I'd hate them, man. I hate it because you can't see what's coming, right? They're a safety issue, they're a safety hazard. I mean, it doesn't do anything, and all it does is allow them to collect, right? Aliens to collect on the bank, and we don't know what's coming, But it's funny because now Abbott said he wants to investigate these NGOs, and I was thinking, really? Is it because you want to, or because you really don't need them anymore? Because now they have all these mega processing centers, right? That basically are taking the place of the NGOs, right? Because now the buses are going there. But initially, when he came out with his executive order, right? Remember a while back, he came out with the executive order that any non-government organization that is transporting illegal aliens will be shut down, or they'll be arrested or fined or whatever. But for the NGOs, it was business as usual.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and look, man, so Abbott says they're going to investigate the NGOs. You know what, Abbott? Why not just shut them down?
Shut them down.
Just shut them down, and
suspend their funding. Shut them down while you're investigating.
So that's a state. But look, if you got these centers operating under federal contracts, you've got an army of code and compliance personnel out there. You've got the safety inspectors out there. I've sat there at these NGOs and watched the vehicles that go in and out and pick up people, drop off people. Yeah. Safety violations all over the place. I mean, and that just from a cursory, just looking at it from the surface. Yeah. But back in May of 2021, May 15th, actually, we held a rally in Carrizo Springs. It was Christians Against Sexual Exploitation case, Christians Against Sexual Exploitation, making a case in defense of children. And we were saying back then, Abbott, you have got to stop this inflow into the country, shut down the facilities. Carrizo Springs, they had a facility run by Baptist Child and Family Services down there. And so, what is happening here, folks, is this. There is a raging fire, this situation here. It's a raging fire. And so Abbott, instead of going in as a fireman to put it out, he just opens up I'm not even going to say the water line. He just minimizes, he controls the pressure of the gas,
Yeah.
the gas that is feeding this fire. Because we are feeding this fire by busing them out of the country. We are feeding this fire by spending more money on National Guard and DPS troopers to do nothing effective on the border. Nothing effective. They're there. Look, nothing against them. They're there, but they are not stopping, thwarting, repelling, removing any of these people coming across. Yeah. Instead, they're just saying, hey, just wait up right here, gather up right here. DHS, Border Patrol, their contractors are going to come and pick you up. That's what's happening, folks. You're being lied to your face, and you're being told, to like it. You're being told to cheer for it as you are being lied to your face.
And once in a while, a globalist Republican would get on air and say, we no longer need this, we're not going to stand for it, and then they go back and they eat dinner. And folks, the reality is the people, the establishment, they don't lose any sleep over this. They're so out of touch in regards to border security and national security folks that they don't, there's maybe a few, a handful. Like I said, I brag on Chip Roy a lot because, he's trying. Matter of fact, I got sent his border plan the other day. I haven't read all the way through it, but I got sent his border security plan the other day, and the people who sent it to me, they were excited about it. They're hoping and they're praying and they're hoping that it gets pushed through, but who knows?
Good luck.
Good luck because of the globalist agenda.
Well, and part of the reason is, look, Chip Roy is one of the few that is speaking out against, in one case, McCarthy and McConnell, the Senate leader and the minority leader right now. There's a man from representative from Montana that's running against McCarthy. And it's the part of the Freedom Caucus, but yeah, what happens in Congress, bro, is if you don't play their games, they squash your legislation. So that the other thing about part of the plan that Chip and others are involved in, there's only all the Texas representatives, Republicans signed on to that, except for Tony Gonzalez in this district.
What a surprise! I'm shocked.
And if you can look at the whole thing, he's been a proponent of processing centers and giving people more visas to come into the country. But there's one critical line in there that has to do with shutting down the NGO contract.
Oh, that's where he gets all his money, man.
That he's housed inside an NGO facility. Yeah. He is inside Endeavor's office in San Antonio. He is in bed with a non-government organization, and he didn't sign on to it because there is a line in there that, a paragraph or whatever section that talks about defunding or investigating the NGOs, and he's not going to do that.
Oh, because they'll find out exactly who's helping them, and who's supporting them, and of course his office is there in an NGO. I mean, that's a conflict of interest, folks. And anyway, it's just
so that's what's going on here. And I know, look, we're still talking about the border, why? Because it's going on, but. There's certainly other issues, in our nation. That's why we started off the show talking about you've got to get involved. You've got to get into the fight. And I'm not talking literally, fists and weapons here. What I'm saying is, go be seen in Washington or your state capital, like Austin.
Go to the school board meetings, go to the city council meetings.
Water board.
Yeah, get
the water district.
Get your voice heard. Make sure that you pay attention to what is happening around you. I mean, I've seen a lot of these parents that are going over there to the school board meetings and standing up against, critical race theory and against the drag queen story hours, and things like that, and all the pornographic material that is coming into our schools and into our kids' minds and hearts and what is being taught. And folks, as parents, you have the right to do that. I mean, you have the right to go in and find out what your kids are being taught, right? Yeah. And because if you don't get involved, somebody else is going to bring up your children. That's just the reality.
That's what's happening here.
That's what's happening. And now this virtue signaling, and right now it's basically what we're fighting is not only we're fighting on two fronts: political, cultural. They all have something to do. But the reality is, folks, it's evil versus righteousness, right? Good versus evil, and which is interesting. So we open up our show, saying Happy Hanukkah and whatnot. The main theme of Hanukkah, not only do we celebrate the festival, the feast, the light of the world, Yeshua, but it's also a fight against assimilation. Right, back in the day, King Antiochus Epiphanes, he came in, he tried to create this one world kingdom, one world religion, right, and instituted Hellenism, right. Alexander the Great instituted Hellenism. Antiochus Epiphanes, encouraged that, and those who stood against it faced persecution and even death. right? We even played a little game during Hanukkah called dreidel, right? Dreidel, little top that we spin, and it represents when during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, we were the study of Torah was outlawed. Anytime the Hellenistic soldiers would come, they would flip over the parchment and act like they were playing a game. So now we play that and to commemorate that. But folks, we're seeing this repeat of history.
Yeah.
Right. We're seeing this repeat of history. What drove Antiochus is the same spirit that's driving people right now. This evil inclination of the heart. But the only one who we should put our trust in utmost ultimately is Messiah.
Yeah.
And he's above the flood, right? But he also gives us the courage and the strength, right? And the wisdom and the knowledge to go out and not only preach the gospel, but to defend freedom, right?
Yeah. Yeah, bro. And so look, as we wrap up this show here, it's this weekend is Christmas, right? And so I just want to say, enjoy the time with your family, enjoy this season, but we can't be oblivious, man. We cannot ignore what's going on around us. And, folks, if from a spiritual perspective, I'm just thinking about the season, when Jesus Christ was born, and the conflict that he brought into this world. Because now that the truth had come in human flesh, the embodiment, la encarnación, the incarnation, and so the word became flesh. And conflict came in because truth causes conflict. There's people that want to believe the lie, and there are the liars. And so whenever you're on the side of truth and you're a truth teller, you're going to be an enemy of somebody. And so that, even though we're celebrating, yes, remembering, let's move beyond the birth of the child and get into the fact that this would be the martyr, the savior. This would be the sacrifice, the atonement of sin, and that this would also usher in our world a very real battle for the eternal spirits of humanity. And so that is the reason for the season, is that the Messiah came and he lived and he died and he rose again and he will return. But in the meantime, we are to be about doing the Father's business, which is speaking the truth and leading others to the cross of Calvary, to that Savior, to the blood that was shed. And what does that mean? Living in a dark age. What does that mean? Working in this dark age and being light in the world and telling the truth, exposing the deeds of darkness. And part of that is, yes, being involved in the political arena, but it also be, raising your children, raising your families, being a good employee at work, being a good boss at work, etc. Living a godly life.
During Hanukkah, we put a menorah in our window, right? And to commemorate, to commemorate the 8 days of Hanukkah. So if you pass by my house, you'll see a Hanukkah in the window. You pass by the synagogue, we have a Hanukkah in the window, with nine lights. Anyway, one representing the Messiah. But it's not just a sign, it's not to commemorate the events of Hanukkah, the miracle of Hanukkah. It's also a sign of courage, right? But to display our courage, to let our light shine before men, so that they would see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. God called us, Messiah called us to be lights in this world. And to I had one pastor tell me, that I know the Lord called us also to be the salt and the light, right? And he says, light exposes the truth, and salt irritates, right?
Yeah.
Go irritate somebody, in the spiritual sense, right? In the spiritual sense, go irritate somebody, because the truth is confrontational, right? The truth does cause division, but folks, we have the truth. If you have Messiah, you have the truth in you.
Yeah, and so certainly, we're a bit rambunctious here, and in your face, but when you're dealing with people, of course, you're not going to be abrasive, acerbic and all that other stuff. You're going to speak the truth, but keep in the back of your head, we can't hold back.
Yeah.
We cannot hold back from speaking the truth. But certainly we can control the delivery of the truth.
Oh, yeah, of course.
With love and patience and looking, and asking the Lord, give me the words. But we certainly have to speak the truth. But there is a time for everything. There's a time for crying. There's a time for laughter, for joy, for grieving. There's a time for peace.
Amen.
And there's a time for war.
Folks, we want to thank you so much for joining us. So I want to just encourage you to visit our website as well, tacoboutlive.com. You can go to our website, check us out there as well. You can email us at tacoboutitlive@gmail.com with your questions, comments, concerns. Even if you disagree with us, let us know. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate you joining us here this morning. Later on, you can find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Podbean as well. We're also on Rumble. And so we're trying to cover all the bases. We're still on YouTube for the most part, anyway.
We're still on YouTube.
Yeah, I get emails. They're going through our programs one at a time and removing some here and there. But if you want to find us on YouTube, go ahead. I suggest you go to Rumble though and check us out over there.
Yeah.
But folks, we want to just thank you so much for being with us, and maybe you have a blessed holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas, and just we're looking forward to the new year. And we're just trusting in the Lord. So God bless you, and
Bless you.
God bless America, and God bless Texas.